Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Larissa Lopez, and I am a core organizer for this gathering, the Just Us online gathering where Earth and racial justice meet. I'm so excited to see your faces today. I just wanted to do a quick housekeeping note. Please make sure you stay on mute throughout the session so we can make space that is audible and accessible for others. If you have any questions or shout outs, we invite you to use the chat box. I'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the session as we move along. And about 5 minutes before the end of the session, I'll drop in a contact form in the chat box so that we can send you the event recordings, highlights, and an invitation to join our online community to continue building post this event, because we definitely want it to be outcome-based, action-based, so we have more work to do after these conversations. And now I want to wave on our facilitator for this session, Alina, so we can get started. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yes, my name's Alina, also a member of ADE Project, and what we're about to explore with planetary healing of soil and soul is very near and dear to my heart. So I want to just welcome our panelists. We have with us Ponkho Bermejo of beloved Asheville, Chloe Moore of Sunrise Movement, Asheville chapter, and Olufemi Lewis of the Sierra Club. Ponkho Bermejo is a part of the intentional community of beloved Asheville. Beloved works to make sharing and radical recycling an everyday practice in building a new world in the shell of the old. Ponkho weaves his Mexican culture into his work as a cultural artist and community organizer. He creates public art out of recycled pallets that doubles as community gardens for elders and creates neighborhood fiestas to organize communities to support each other. He supported justice campaigns, including the Charlotte Uprising, Housing Not Handcuffs, and an emergency food and know your rights campaign during the recent ICE raids. Ponkho is painter, graphic artist, and photographer with Beloved's Rise Up Studio, as well as a musician and songwriter. Thanks for being with us, Ponkho. Chloe Allegra Moore is a climate justice activist with Sunrise Movement Asheville and is a passionate food grower. She works as a research assistant for the North Carolina State University Agricultural Extension Program with organic vegetable and medicinal herb production, as well as growing food at Shiloh Community Garden. Chloe believes in creating a food system that is not only just and delightfully diverse, but one which reimagines our relationships with land and treats agriculture not as a climate issue, but as one of its most powerful solutions. Thank you, Chloe. Olufemi is originally from Charlotte, but called Asheville home for almost 20 years. She's a mother, daughter, and avid community organizer, currently working with the Sierra Club as a Southeast Regional Distributed Organizer for the Ready for 100 campaign. She also serves as a board member of Dogwood Alliance. Olufemi is also one of the founders of Asheville Buncombe Food Policy Council, Buncombe County Cooking Oil Recycling Program, Ujamaa Freedom Market, Hillcrest Unity Garden, and Gardens United. She's a fellow member of the North Carolina Food Justice Fellowship for People of Color, and her personal experiences with environmental and structural racism have called her to use her voice in movements that are working to dismantle systems of racial inequities and oppression. Welcome, panelists. Thanks for being here to share your voices for planetary healing for soil and soul. So feel free to just answer these questions either popcorn style. We'll see. I guess I'll play the facilitator role, but I do want whoever feels called, just go ahead and answer. So my first question is, what does climate justice mean to you? And is there a distinction between climate justice and environmental justice?
Let's can we do it in like a conversation type like style, Chloe and Ponkho?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. So yeah, climate justice. What does that mean to me? When I think of climate justice, I think of I think of justice for Mother Earth, then us. I think of of a place of where we can equally come to addressing what the injustices have been in the first place. Yeah, yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I think of the work of climate justice as being kind of framing climate change around people and around racial, social, and economic justice, instead of the framing of climate change around things that are farther away from us, like parts per million of carbon or polar bears. So having that justice aspect of climate change, I think is like a super important part to the work of justice, and different than standard environmentalism.
Yeah, and for me, I think then, so my mother was born in the mountains, so I became from a family of indigenous people. And I remember when I grown up, all my grandpa and my grandma used to live in the mountains and take care of the land and grow food and all these kind of things. So for me, environmental justice sounds like I have to back to, or we have to back to the essence of the planet, and is like living together with the planet. And I think then now a lot of times I feel then people stop growing plants and really start growing buildings. So we need to start thinking again in how to be connect again with the planet and be in harmony, because like now I feel then all the times when I see the bears or every other animal, every other animal find a way to adaptate to what is around, and we are the only people that destroy. For me, it sounds like more like looking more for the connection with what we used to be, and we lost in the way in the obsession of money and things, and we have to find a way. And this is, for me, this is a big opportunity in the middle of all the virus pandemic stuff. It's our opportunity to reconnect.
It's like I think of stewardship. You know what I'm saying? Like we've been disconnected and removed from being stewardess of Mother Earth. When I think of climate justice, I think of us getting back to that point of really honoring her, protecting her, nourishing her, just as she does to us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that, sorry.
No, yeah, you can go.
Everybody then grown plants know and or then we grown different things. You feel the connection when you grown something, and when you see this growing and later eat the fruit from the soil. I think there is some kind of connection that then we lost in our way to progression. Like people say, like we are more progress now than the way that we used to be, and for me, really, we are not very progress. Like this show us like how fragile we are, and like I said, I think then for a lot of us then grown stuff, like I think then we have this feeling then this is the right way, and I think then sometimes I want to say, I told you, then this is the way then we're supposed to live, the way then we're supposed to take care and provide for our own selves, and not depends of these crazy stores that are paying, they are even not paying living wages to them. Like it's a lot of things. Only I think that everything is mixed.
Right.
The idea.
Yeah, it's all connected. So you're speaking to kind of another question, like, and this is tied to this first question of climate justice. How is this dominant culture that is now like a global consumer-driven culture, capitalist, exploitative culture, how is that affecting climate disruption in the first place? Is it contributing to climate disruption? And, you know, when we think of the agricultural systems, things like that, like these are, you're speaking like us changing our path from how we used to be to this now modern age that's taking over. How is that impacting climate justice, and how are communities of color even communities that are still holding to indigenous ways, people on the coastlines, people in other countries, how are they being impacted the most and first from climate disruptions when really it's coming from a dominant society? And I think that's where the climate justice comes into play.
Yeah. Well, I would first say that a culture's food system is kind of a mirror for the culture itself, and that the dominant culture's food system, which is totally agriculturally based, is based in totalitarianism, and that there's really only one right way to grow food. It's based in military technology that is being used agriculturally, as well as for the conquest of agricultural lands. It's based in just a lack of diversity in terms of species-wise, and in terms of the just the way it impacts communities in terms of who is in charge, who has the power and the money and the land, as well as who has access to healthy food and the resources that wealth from this food system provides.
Yeah. I don't know where Olu went. Technical difficulties. Do you want to add anything further to that, Pancho?
No, I think then, yeah, I think Chloe say very well.
So why aren't more people making these connections between environmental justice and racial justice?
I think, or do you want to go first, Pancho? Or?
Now you can go first.
Okay. Well, I think that it's all based in a very painful truth of oppression that our whole culture and nation and wealth of our society is built off of. So I think that it's very difficult to get to that root of the oppression of our lands and of our peoples. But I also think that on a more surface level, the framing of the environmentalist movement, is like mostly white environmentalist movement, as opposed to environmental justice, frames environmental issues not around people of color and marginalized people who are on the front lines. So instead, having this framing that is more distant from the actual most impacted people, of focusing more on polar bears than the hurricanes in Puerto Rico. Or like, and I'm not saying that our non-human relatives don't also have value, but that this focus is on other species and things farther away from us than our actual communities that are being severely impacted.
Yeah, and I think that all this language of climate justice is new, and I guess it's a language that not everybody speaks. Like I can tell you that people in the ground really don't know a lot about this. So I think then for me personally, my responsibility when I'm in whatever meeting, then I hear people speaking the language that not belongs to the ground. I try my best to adapt this language in whatever meeting then we are, from the city or from the state, to the language of the ground, because if not, we're never gonna have the connection of what is going on. Like I can tell you then, so with all this crisis of the pandemic, we adapted some posters, cultural posters, to different communities, and people were saying, oh, it's very smart to adapt and have icons that refer the cultural of different places. And I think that this is very needed, like translate the language of like even the language that we are talking now, like climate justice. Like I say, if I go and talking with some of the people and then I know them work every day, then clean dishes, then clean hotels, probably they're not gonna understand what I'm saying. Only when I'm talking about the devastation of our rivers, the devastation of our trees in our land, they're gonna know, because like I was saying, like my family came from the mountains, and I moved to this country more than 10 years ago, and when I moved, I started seeing more the devastation in the place that I grown up. And now the river is like no have fishes no more. It's not a lot of trees no more. So like I say, if we move the language from climate justice to what is going on, I think the more people in the ground can understand. And like I say, is find a way to have that, find a connection between what is saying here with what is the language that is speaking here, because it's two different languages.
Totally
So,
feel that.
yeah, for real. I wondered, Ponkho, like how you would frame climate justice to with some of the people that you work with, or like to people who are not in this space, not going to go to a Zoom call about this.
Mm-hmm. So I think then the fight is to have spaces to be, to grow your own food. The fight is like protect your trees, because the trees make the us to have rivers because contain water. So like I say, when I explain, if I explain in this way, like I start talking about the connection that I have in my own place, then in the place that I was born, then because the devastation of the trees and the devastation, the insanity of thinking in money all the time and try to sell everything that is around, they devastate the place that I grown up. I start talking about this and people start saying, oh, the place that I grown up is the same way. So later I start saying, this is the fight. The fight is that we want to stop this idea that is better profit than anything else. So I think that when we talk in this way, when we find the way, then can people identify is when people join the movement. Because like I say, if I go somewhere and I talk about climate justice, people are gonna say, "Why you think that you are smarter than me?" Like, because I start using language, then people knows in the ground. So I always try to talk with I guess something then deeply refers to me, and I see that a lot of people identify with this. It's not everybody, only a lot of people identify with when I'm talking about my own perspective about what is going on in the ground without mixing with big words.
Yeah, I totally resonate with what you're saying. I think it's a common thing with so many of our kind of trendy phrases that, you know, might be useful when we're building movements with hashtags and things and making flyers, but it's really about articulating what it really means to us as living beings and for the earth. So thanks for sharing that. And welcome back, Olu. Thank you. We would love to hear your input as well. It was kind of exploring, like, why aren't more people aware? How are people in the dominant society kind of failing to explore the intersection between protecting the earth and protecting human rights, basically? And we used the words like, why aren't people making the connection between climate justice and social justice?
I believe that it goes to social institutions. And so what I mean by social institutions is, like, you know, there's starting out, you have like an example, or what a social institution is like your founding pillars of where you get socialized in certain norms and beliefs, right? So if we look at how the common person really most of us don't come from being socialized in having the norms and the beliefs that we have to take care of the planet. So there's already that disconnection. So now that we're in this state, right? I'm skipping a lot because I don't want to take up too much time, but now we're in this state where people are wondering, we're wondering why, like, why don't people get it? Why don't they understand that we have to have, when we're talking about climate justice, it has to be for everyone and everything, just not for one set of people, or just not for polar bears, foxes, or whatever. It's for everything, right? So it's, to go back, it's because people, that culture isn't in our norms, isn't in most of our founding norms and beliefs. And so therefore, when it's time for us to talk about this, most people aren't able to make that connection, because it was never established in their founding social institutions. For example, family, whatever, I'm going to say church, church or whatever religious kind of like background, depending on what that religion is, right? We know most westernized religions don't talk anything with connecting Mother Earth to the moons and the stars and how we are supposed to be here as stewardess to her, right? And then you have, by the time it's time for us to go to school, you have those societal anchor like institutions that drill something else in us instead of how we need to connect with Mother Earth and be here for her.
Yes, thank you.
And I think that when I moved to this country, the lesson I was thinking was to fight the climate change. I was thinking in how to make money, pay my rent, pay my bills. So we have a lot of people that live day by day. So I think that it's very hard for everybody to be involved in the movement when you have kids and you need to be worried about your paycheck. So I think then the biggest problem is that they keep us poor all the time. So this is the reason for we see then brown and black people are very affected by all this because they have been keeping us poor, they keeping us in jail, they keeping us in detention center. We are always the bad people. We are never doing good. So the police is the policing us. Like I think then keeping us poor is what keeping us out of the equation of be fighting for climate change. Like I said, because a lot of people like myself have other worries. Like a lot of people live day by day.
Yes, thank you for saying that. So crucial.
Yeah.
So what are some of the, I'm just going to go to a next question. This is really, really good stuff. What are some of the challenges that some of you faced, whether in your line of works that you're dealing with or just what you've observed in other organizing or movements? What are some of the challenges involved, like that's blocking progress or just, challenging the progress when you're building coalitions or working intersectionally?
I think then, I guess I try to see all this pandemic like something good. And like somebody then always dream about revolution. Then I look Zapata, then I look Villa, then it's revolutionaries from Mexico. I always dream to be part of the revolution. And I was imagining myself, then revolution is somebody with a gun in the street fighting the government. Only now I see them food is the revolution. Then growing your own food and take care of the land is the revolution. So we are in a moment and a beautiful moment in the middle of the bad things that is going on. We are in a beautiful moment. Then we have a shot to change what used to be the normal. Then always the normal was insane. So it's not any reason for back again to what is insane. So maybe we can create a normal that really is the normal right now. So I think then for somebody then dream to be part of something big, like we are in the biggest moment that I can imagine. I feel very lucky to be right now here in this life because we have a shot. People then dream then can be a different world. We have a shot and we are here and we can do it. I think then for me, the more important part in the work that I do is I try to bring hope. This is my work. I can be doing different things. I can deliver this, do that. My really work is bring hope, because I know that when somebody have hope, they're gonna say, I want to be part of this. The same idea, the same passion that you have, I want to have this passion, and I know that we're gonna be the change. And like I say, we have a shot.
Beautiful. You want to add to that, Chloe or Olufemi?
Olufemi, I know that you were talking about this before the call, so maybe you go for it.
She might be having issues. Are you with us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. We can.
So I don't know what's going on, y'all. Hold on.
So we're talking about building coalitions and why it's important, right?
Why it's important and any challenges that you've been experiencing.
The reason why I feel that it's important is because we all need to understand that if we come together against a very capitalist, white supremacist, imperialistic system, if we all unify and understand that that's what we're going up against, then it wouldn't. Yeah, I'm basically trying to say, sorry, I'm basically trying to say that the reason why we need to unify is to go up against systems like that, energy like that whole system, because we can't do this without dismantling white supremacy culture and behavior, because that is the founder of this all, of it all, of the capitalism, of the racism, of the sexism, of all of the isms. That is what founded all of that, right? And so where I find it hard when in some, so as in my title, I work across the Southeast. We know the unfortunate history of the Southeast when it comes to how this country all got founded, right? So there's times that I've ran up with the issue of being able to build coalitions, because there are white people that don't understand that we have to address dismantling white supremacy culture and behavior in order to reach climate justice, in order to reach environmental justice, in order to reach clean renewable energy in a energy democracy. In order to reach any of that, we have to dismantle that culture and that behavior. And that's where I run up against problems, because sometimes white people don't understand that, and they don't see the connection. They don't see how it intersects. They don't see that culture and that behavior is the reason why our environment and our planet is the way that it is, because it birthed capitalism, it birthed racism, it birthed all of the isms. And yeah, as a Black woman working in the environmental movement, it's very challenging because of that. Yeah, because of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if like, I have been thinking about if it's possible to change everybody's brain, like everybody's idea, or what is the right thing to do. So I use back from the Ingos store. We went to buy some supplies, and so probably was like, I saw probably like 50 or 60 people in the store, and only like 4 people was using masks and gloves. So for me, it's like, look like we living in 2 different worlds. Like the people that believe that is real, and the people then say, this is not real. Like they try to do something like whatever. So I think that for me, it's always, when we are in this kind of meetings, I always think when we finish this kind of meetings, or when I am with people that have similar beliefs than myself, I think like we're gonna change the world. Like, yeah, it's a lot of people. Only like you think we are probably like 10, 20 people in this room. In Ingos was probably like 50, 60 people without gloves and masks. So the reality is, then it's a lot of people then even don't care about all these kind of things. Like, so I think we have a big shot to these people that was in the middle of the line, and they haven't decided if they're gonna be being part of the movement, then make that change, and they was in the middle. So I think that we have a big chance to help these people to jump to be part of the solutions. Or at least a lot of people then they are not there, and I don't know if they gonna be there in one point, because this is a crazy, I guess. This is the people that go to the street and say, we need to reopen. Oh, wait, and they go with guns to the Capitol. Like, this is the kind of people, like I say, 5 people, 6 people was with gloves and masks. The other 50 or 60 people was without gloves and masks. So if I take this one like a percent, so this means then the people that believe in the change, the people that believe then we can make a better place to live for everybody. probably is like 5 or 6, 7%, 10%. So then it's not bad because we can be the change.
Adding to the challenges of coalition building, I totally agree with and feel everything that has been said so far. I would add that for me and for us in the Sunrise Movement, which if anyone doesn't know is a youth-led climate justice movement, and it's national. Our local hub is Sunrise Asheville. And another additional challenge to coalition building is that it takes real time to build the trust that is needed for deep organizing together and deep coalition building. And as young people, I'm 24 and I'm kind of on the old side for Sunrise. There are leaders who are many leaders who are in college, many or of college age. There are many leaders who are in high school. Nationally, there are leaders who are in middle school. So as young people who see this massive crisis of climate change, that we have such a short amount of time to make very huge, radical, real changes. So we have 10 years to make massive changes to the system in which we're living. It's really hard to, as young people who also are less experienced, it's really hard to find the balance between the urgency of this and the slow approach that it takes to do real trust building for coalition building.
And I think then, so I work in a no-profit organization, and I think we have been meeting with international organization. People that do stop here only they work for international organizations. And I can tell you that I hear stuff in the no-profit world then made me like, I guess before these meetings, I was thinking that no-profits was the solution for a lot of the problems that we have. Only a lot of the big no-profit, they are thinking in money too, because they see a big possibility that it's going to be less funds for a lot of people. So, like I have been in rooms then, even big, like international no-profits are thinking fierce in money than people. So I think, like for me personally, my really belief is then, I think then the solution is going to be came from the communities more than from institutions. And when I go to different communities, I let people know, then even then people think then sometimes they see us in the microphone, sometimes they see us like somebody have an interview about, like I say to the people, I'm the same than everybody else. So my role is empower people. My role is like letting people in the community, then they can be, and we have to be the solution. So I think then, yeah, this is, yeah.
Even though I'm just supposed to kind of ask questions, I just want to say, like, I totally agree with that. Like, grassroots, what you were saying before is we have to build it. We have to grow it. Grassroots seems to make us move faster. It's like a balance, right? Like when we're working institutionally or politically, which there's a space for that, like Sunrise, trying to encourage people already in bigger politics to do their part, right? Like there is a place for that. But at the same time, there's a saying, it's kind of an Asian saying that's like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And in a way, it's almost like we have to do both. Like go together with your people, with your communities, so that you can go further, but faster than if you were to just try to go to institutions and governments to change it for you. And it's like, yeah, growing gardens. Beloved Community also made a tiny house community for houseless folks too. That's incredible, and that's really a direct example. Like we can build it. We can build these examples and demonstrate how it could look, because a lot of times people just don't know any other way because it's part of that program.
And like I was saying, like the idea of when we start building the houses, the idea is then empower the community. So a lot of people then they know when we was building the houses, people think that the goal was to build the houses when the goal is to build community and empower the community. Because if we was able to build these houses without money, imagine the empowerment. Because we was asking people in the community, if you have this skill, please share. We can do it. We can build. So all this starts when we ask for the land and somebody say, oh, I have a land. I can donate the land to you. And later we start asking, oh, who knows how to do frame? And somebody say, oh, I know how to do it. And later somebody was doing the plumbing. And like I say, the goal is not the houses. The goal is community and empower, and not depends of the government, not depends of federal money, not depends of big institutions, depends of the community.
Is Olu still with? Yes, you are. Olu, do you want to add any more comments?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay, I think I understood. So I want to just tie it back to, and semantics aside, back to this, the justice aspect of these things and helping people recognize, because even a lot of us present are in Western North Carolina. We are in a place that's relatively safe from climate disruptions. We're in the mountains. We're not even on the coasts. But considering other places that are facing not only natural disasters, but things like pipelines, things like, Berta Cáceres, people are dying to protect their forests, giving up their lives. Like, how do we, in more privileged places, survivally speaking, make sure that we're honoring those warriors and healers on the front lines while still moving forward with our local efforts? Maybe I'm phrasing that wrong.
No, I think there is a lot of things to honor. Like I say, like it's a lot of disempowerment, and always have been in this system. So, like we just went probably like a week ago to say thank you to some of the farmers. Then almost all the things that they produce in this farm is 75% of the stuff that they produce are sold to hot food, so a local stores here in Asheville. And I think then. And we was leaving the farmers like heroes, like the heroes that they are. So I think then framing again the narratives of who really are the people, then I think this time is giving us the opportunity to frame again who really is essential and what kind of things are not essential no more. So yeah.
Yeah, prioritizing, because what's not essential ultimately through the capitalist consumer cycle that's global, ultimately that impacts these communities directly. We're logging their forests, etc.
Yeah, and I think they have a good memory, like, because you think like the same farmers that we went to visit a month ago, 2 months ago, they was calling rapers and drug dealers, and now they are called essential workers. So I think that we have to have good memory in all these kind of things, and not because a lot of people is saying, oh, we have to back to normal, and I hope that no. I hope that we not back to normal, because normal was insane. So I hope that we can remember and we can hold this what is going on right now for keep accountable the government or whoever we have to for they to not forgive. Then these works, then they even don't want to pay living wage, are essentials, and we need to take care, because in the end, if something happen again, the people that work in the farms is the people that is gonna provide for us to have food in the table.
Yeah, I think that Ponkho said it really, really well. I heard a similar question on a different panel recently about someone asked, how can privileged people in privileged positions help people in less privileged positions? And I think that it relates, and I think that my response is that you need to fight to destroy that structure, to make it so that there are no privileged communities and underprivileged communities. That's the only way to do it. It's cannot be through charity, where you give this marginal amount of wealth or power away, but keep the vast majority. It's this really dramatic shift away from privileged communities and underprivileged communities.
Like nature would have it, balance.
Yeah, and I think sharing even like I say, even people like myself, I have a lot of privilege. Like when all this happened, all the pandemic happened, like I'm not worried about different things for the type of life that I have. So this means that I have privilege because I see other people and it's very worried about all these kind of things. So for me, the more important thing is check my privilege because I have privilege too. And from there, like when people invite me to talk about topics, then I really don't know. Like people invite me sometimes to talk about uh, all the stuff that happen with workers and like I say, I can go. Only I'm not gonna go. I'm not gonna be the speaker. I'm gonna invite somebody that really know what is going on. And sometimes I feel that we have the disconnection of inviting the people that are really affect to be in the microphone because we want these people that is popular there in the microphone. We don't invite the people that have to be there speaking by their own feelings, how feel, how taste to be there. So I think that for me, it's always checking my privilege and inviting people that are really affected. Like I say, even in the middle of all this pandemic, I'm not affected in a way that other people that I haven't seen and I have been working with, they are affected. So, yeah.
Excellent. Olufemi, just because I can't see your face, I just want to keep asking you if you want to share anything.
Yeah, I'm here. I would just add, for individuals that are more, you know what I'm saying, that are more privileged and are in positions to where they can do something, I would say first I would say that they should start off by informing themselves first of how they received all of those privileges that they have, and then secondly, connect with the people, with the grassroots organizations on the ground that has been in the trenches doing this work. Those people that's in power and with privilege, connect with those folks to get them the resources that they need in order to continue the work for the people. When I was listening to Ponkho, I heard a lot of like community resiliency, you know, like a community being resilient and building themselves up to be able to withstand any kind of adversities that come their way. And I believe that that's what people with privilege and that's with power should give up to, you know what I'm saying, helping those communities to become more resilient so that we no longer rely on those different systems of oppression.
Yeah, then we see that this happen a lot. I don't know if you see, like, because we do a lot of stuff here in the city. Sometimes we walk inside in community centers. So the community center are run for people that not believe in the community. So like for me, never makes sense then somebody that not live in the community is taking care of the community centers. So I think that is the same idea in whatever issue. People from other cities, people from other places try to solve the problems of people that not experience the problem. So it's not gonna be best antidote. It's not gonna be a best solution than the people in the ground. It's because they always try to think that we are dumb. Then we don't know how to make the solution. We know how to do the solution, how to make the solution. The problem is that we don't have resources. So the best way is supporting the people that are experienced whatever issue that they have. Because like I know, like people are very smart in the ground. Like sometimes even when we work doing different work, like for me the inspiration became from the ground. It's people in the ground and figure it out the problems because they are living in the problem all the time, so they have to figure it out.
Exactly, and it's leading to like I mean, we seen what the city of Asheville had did. You know, city of Asheville went outside of the city to hire people of color to do the work where there was people of color in Asheville that have been doing the work for decades of this, doing work around racial equity, justice, know their community, been living in the community because they're from there, right? And it just speaks to like how, it seems like people in power and position, they want to, say that they're doing it, doing something the right way to address the issues, but they're not trusting their own community to help them to get to those solutions. I mean, yeah, I'll just leave it there. I don't want to keep preaching or anything like that, but it just speaks to like resiliency and trusting the people that are living in those communities to build resiliency on their own, and for people with that power and with privilege to just come up off of some power, some of it, all of it.
Thank you. And that is not over preaching. I think it's really important to keep sharing these thoughts because it is connecting the dots. And people need to be aware of that, like sharing stories from the ground at those kinds of, it's really a lot of like social barriers that prevent a lot of pragmatic solutions from going forward. And it's just about cultivating that understanding. So not too much preaching. We welcome it. All connected. Did you want to share anything, Chloe? So how, I know a lot of us, especially who are on the ground doing things, we often have ideas, very specific strategies even of, it's like, if I did have these resources, what would I be doing? What would we be doing? Does anyone fancy sharing some of those things? Because I think that would be really relevant and part of like follow-ups that we can go from here.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? Because I can't look at it. I can't see any.
Yeah, it's no longer any written questions. It's a organic thing now.
Okay.
I guess I'm inviting
All right,
I'm inviting you to share if you've, throughout your experience, personal and work and social building, all these things, are there any specific strategies, inspirations, ideas that you would like to share that is like, this is a solution? And if I had the resources, this is what we, my community, my group, or just myself would do to address environmental protection and this evolution of our collective culture.
I can speak to that. So I guess I'm gonna start with talking a little bit about Shiloh Community Garden. And one thing that I really, really love, a program that I really, really love there is the Youth Stipend Program, which pays teenagers to do work in a community garden and to be experiencing agriculture that actually affects their community, and to have that not be something that they're just expected to do for no reason or like because someone told them to, but because it's actually valuing them and valuing their work and their being. And so I think that kind of thing is really important, giving young people the resources and the power, the respect and the value to actually work within their own community, and especially growing food, especially working with land and developing relationships with land and with people on the land, working with relationships with their peers and with leaders that they can learn to respect. And they're not through like a big institution, that are just other people within that community. And I think that in collaboration with really building soil and having a respect for soil and adding carbon to soil, and that using that as a tool to literally physically change our climate together. That's the people power and the environmental power, I think. More of that.
So if I had a wand, if I had a magic, I would just wave that wand to have people to get into a spiritual practice with the earth, right? Because I think that a big part of the problem is that we don't practice as much with spirit and with the earth as we should. And the reason why I bring that up is because I feel like working with spirit can help to address and to call on the powers to be to disrupt the current things that we have going on this planet, right? If I had that type of power, that's what I would ask for. It's for us to reconnect through spirit and to work with planet Earth in that way. I think I heard in your question too, Alana, am I pronouncing your name right?
Alina.
Alina, okay. I'm sorry. Is the other part of that question is like, what if we had resources? What would we do with those resources?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I know if I had land, the kind of land that if I had a lot of land, I would create a space to where people can come and learn how to reconnect with spirit, by maintaining Mother Earth, cultivating it, connecting with it, and to have a community where people will feel safe in that. I'm on this webinar because I have I'm doing this work with the Sierra Club, but before I go on, clock on to this job, I work with spirit. I go before my altar before I even do any kind of work in regards to climate justice, environmental justice, because I know that I can't do it without connecting with spirit, without connecting with my ancestors first. And so I can't think of a more valuable resource than connecting with spirit and connecting with ancestors, with our ancestors. I can't think of any other valuable resource than that. I hope that makes sense.
It completely makes sense. It is all connected, and just like how the land is like a reflection for how we are. We're almost like a collective consciousness as a human species in a kind of psychosis, and I said earlier in the lunch from a diasporic kitchen, like this climate justice work, all of this work is basically a spiritual call to action back to the mother and all of her children. So it completely makes sense. And it would transform a lot of things.
Yeah, I wanted to say, Chloe, me and Leah, I met her back in like 2011, 2012. We're connected with the same group of people, Black urban farmers, that's out of Detroit and other places across the nation. And I remember when she was talking about when she first was talking about this idea, the idea, and then, you know, almost 10 years later, she has it now. So yeah, it's been a real, she's definitely inspired me, and it's been amazing to see her journey afar, and to see how she, you know, she made it a reality, and by connecting with spirit and the ancestors in order to do it. Yeah, big ups to you. Beautiful spirit.
Yeah, I figured you would probably have a connection with her. But for anyone else on here who's interested, Leah Penniman, I dropped it in the chat. She's a really amazing organizer and Black farmer, environmental justice worker, and
author.
Done it, author. Farming While Black is her book. Yeah, and really cool person. Very inspiring.
We have just another minute if anyone has any final thoughts to share before the breakout sessions.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking in when you was talking about the resorts, like we was having all the resorts, how this look like and how we can be changing something. Like I was thinking in Zapata, then always Zapata having like big inspiration for me, and he always said, "And the land belongs to the people and work the land." So I think then I dreamed this, like then all these fucking gold camps, then they have all these spaces, then they not use, then they let the people then farm, use it, and belongs to these people. So I wish we have this resort. I dream about a day then this happen. Then the land belongs to the people and work the land. So.
I say.
Yeah, I say.
I feel like sort of doing a very tiny introduction to a project that Ade project is also a part of. I've been working toward and this is, you know, sharing this with you all. It's going to be, you know, for all of the people, but here in Western North Carolina, we're working on a sustainable real estate cooperative, which would be on a land trust. So it's like a way to bridge our modern time where people privately own land and such, but doing it in such a strategy to build that bridge point, to have land that is protected and back to in the people's hands as true stewards, and where the whole land, we're talking 50 to 100 acres, would be looked at as one ecosystem. So it's not just parceled out into little lots that end up being an unsustainable thing. Like, let's grade this and get rid of the topsoil and cut these trees down. Like, everything is connected. And it would be for home ownership and mission-led businesses, so that we can actually create these little communities and do what you were saying, Pancho, like creating the change, creating the hope, and living it ourselves with our people first. Just prove it to ourselves that it's a real reality. So anyway,
I got the herb farm.
Say again?
I said I got the herb farm part.
Yes.
I'd love to learn more about that project. That sounds really, really cool.
We're all connected now. And thank you, panelists. Thank you, Olufemi, Pancho, and Chloe for being panelists on this very important discussion. Planetary healing for soil and soul.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody that attended. Peace and blessings to you all. Thank you.
They're not leaving yet. Larissa, guide us.
Yeah, so thank you. I'm like reeling because I'm so grateful for each and every one of you and resonate on such a deep level. And it's hard to keep my facilitator hat on because I just want to dive in there and be like, preach it. So in that same vein though, I want to welcome conversation now. So I want to welcome dialogue and have those folks that are on the call be able to engage as well with their own thoughts and ideas, and what is stirring for you right now. What are you sitting with? What emotions you're sitting with? What practice you're sitting with that you really want to invite us into? And so that's kind of what the next 40 minutes are really about, is whatever y'all want it to be about. And so, you know, we invite you to think about where you want the conversation to go from here. And we could do it as a collective group, and it's a small enough group that we could do it that way and stay together. But another way that we could do this is to break out into specific topic areas. So if people feel really drawn to talk about one specific thing over the other, we can also use this function on Zoom called breakout rooms, where you all can, we can sort you out into different groups and to talk about specific topics or questions or inquiries that you have, and then come back as a big group to discuss them all. And I'm gonna be doing double time with my daughter while I do this. So that's pretty much the, the next amount of time that we want to spend together. And so what I want to do is just invite everyone for a moment of stillness, for a minute to sit with whatever you're feeling right now. So I'm going to put on a timer, and at the end of the timer it'll chime, but just think about kind of what you want to explore further, where you want to go from here, while you have us, because right now I'm like, I haven't seen your faces in so long because of social distancing, and I'm like, now that I have you, I want to explore so many different things. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. And then when we come back, I'm going to start with our panelists first and invite them if they have any topics they really want to hone in on first, and then I'll open it up to the rest of the group. So let's take a minute.
So, are we taking a minute to think about something?
Yes, so, and we're actually
Okay.
we're at time, so we can come back together. But no, that was perfect. That was a great segue. Yeah, a minute to just kind of think about where you're at right now, where you landed after that panel, and where you want to go from here. So I'm going to start it. I think normally we would do like Q&A, but I'm going to start by honoring our panelists. And are there any things that you really want, any directions you really want to go in that you didn't get the chance to, that you think would be a good thread of inquiry right now?
I'm just glad my internet is back working.
Us too, Olu.
I'm not going to start off this conversation, but I just wanted to say that. And I wanted to say, hey, Robert. Hey, Kathy. It's really good seeing y'all faces. Hey.
I would love to open this up to storytelling. Storytelling around how people have been affected by injustice, how people are affected by environmental injustice, racial injustice, economic injustice, and kind of hear and listen and share personal narratives, and that grieve and share power in that way.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Chloe. I'm going to summarize that in the chat so we don't lose track of that then.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Chloe, because I like telling stories. Yeah, I for as long as I can remember, Chloe, and I'm going to tell my age. I'm 39. I turned 39 on the 15th of March. And for as long as I can remember, I always lived by an interstate, railroad tracks, the big electrical areas, like I can't even think of the name of it, but they were talking about building one downtown on Patton Avenue. The big electrical kind of like things. I've always, basically what I'm saying, I've always lived by somewhere that was environmentally, not healthy. An environmental, a EJ community, I guess you could say. And so I never realized how I was impacted by these different things until I moved to Asheville and lived in, after being there for a little while, lived in Hillcrest the Hillcrest Apartments, public housing neighborhood. And it was while I was there that I just started paying attention to things and how it was impacting with, how Hillcrest is made. I mean, it sits up on a hill and you got an interstate that wraps around one side, and then you got the railroad tracks on the other side. Then you got the city bus. I'm not sure if the city bus still comes through there, but at one point in time, it did. It came through there a lot, right? And it was there where I just was noticing things, and also I should have added that, started off with this, but when I became a mother, I just paid more attention to how I was impacted and how things were impacting my children and how they will impact them throughout their lives by living in these kind of communities. So I'm not really the one to sit around and just be talking and complaining. I've always felt like it wasn't right to just have that kind of approach, that you have to, if you see something and it doesn't sit well with you, you got to do something. You can't just be sitting around just bitching and complaining just to be hearing yourself. You gotta, you gotta speak up, and that's just me. So that's how it got started. And I wanna speak to, he's no longer with us, he's transitioned, but Bob White and Lucia White, them two are the ones that introduced me to Piscaview Community Peace Garden, is where it where it started, and where and just how my mind had got open to all of the injustices as well. It's more of a timeline, but I am not gonna go through that whole timeline. But yeah.
And I guess matching with this story, then, like the student we were saying before, then always Black, brown people, and people that are poor experience more like all these issues. I can tell you that I have been living very simple for almost all my adult life. So I know own a lot of things, because we know that if I own a lot of things, they're gonna own me in the end. So I drive my bicycle around. I work with pallets, recycled material. So I can tell you that when I moved to this city, I used to drive everywhere, to the school, in downtown, to different places. And the police one day stopped me. They followed me for 5 blocks. And they stopped me and they say, "Oh, we're gonna need your license," even then I was not driving a motorcycle or a car. I was in my bicycle. So I said, "No, why?" Like they say, "Oh, you cross one from one sidewalk to another sidewalk, and was red. The light was red." So they stopped me and they give me a ticket. The ticket was, I think then was $300. So they called at the time. They called like 5 cars of police officers. So you think I was driving my bicycle in the middle of downtown? 5 cars came around me. They give me a ticket of $300. And later I went to the court, and I was explaining to the people in the court what happened. And they say, "They give you a ticket for what? For a bicycle?" So they raised the ticket. So my point in all this is then brown and Black people, even then we try to be about climate change, and we want to be about all these things, is harder for us, because they like, you think somebody driving in a bicycle is a stop, somebody that is doing good, like the people in camp besides the river. like the other day we was driving in downtown and the police was taking the tent of somebody. Like if you think the people that are affecting less the planet is the people that live without houses, they live without electricity, and they are taking the tents from these people. So like I say, I think then even then sounds amazing. And like I say, for me personally, when we talk about climate change and all this, it's a language that not everybody know. And like the way that I touch my language to the ground is with these kind of stories. Then it's very hard for us to be involved in all this kind of thing when we receive the oppression of racist stuff, we receive the oppression of the police, we receive the oppression of a lot of different things, even when we are doing good. I can tell you that the police stop me many times, and they never, even then we are doing a lot of different things for make better this community with the community, and the police never stop me to say thank you. Never. They always stop me saying that I'm doing something wrong. Always. So it's very hard for us to even try to think then, to be involved in the movement, because it's harder for us all the time.
You had me thinking, Poncho, of when I lived in Hillcrest for 13 years. I stayed in Hillcrest, right? And you talking about policing, like it would be the same police officers, like it was many times that they would set up these license check right when you come onto the hill, right? It says on my damn license, my address that's there, but still they want to give me all of this extra. And it was, I can't even count. I lost track of like how much they did that, and how it was just one day. I remember my daughter, Serenity, who is now, Miss Kathy, you won't believe this, but she's about to be 17 years old. But Serenity, I think Serenity was probably like 6 or 7 at the time. And she said, Mom, this feels like prison. I said, Serenity, I mean, I knew why she said that, but I wanted to inquire more of like why she felt that way. I was like, why do you say that? Why do you feel this way? She said, well, they always here. They are always here. And when we go and see my dad, you have to show your license in order to get in there. Now, what kind of fucking environment is that for a 6 or 7-year-old to be coming up in, right? And it's like, you know, I was the mom that was doing right in the community. I you know what I'm saying? Like we all have our things that we got to do in order to survive. No shade at all. Get that. Come from the struggle. But it wasn't no reason for me to be policed like that every time me and my child was trying to come home after me getting off from work and me picking her up from after school or whatever. It was just, yeah, them was some hard years dealing with Asheville Police Department.
Yeah, and I think that this is what make everything harder. Like I say, like the many times when the police told me, like they never came and say thank you so much for the work that you do in the community. Never. It's always something wrong. Like it's the stuff that I explain to people. Then it's other issue that happen now with a lot of people that look like me. Then if I see the police behind, I'm stressed because I know then they never gonna look me like somebody doing something good. So do you think we are doing all the social work, all the climate change? We are fighting for all this, and on top of this, we are always stressed because the police is behind. Like never, and this is the thing, like people invite us to these panels to talk about different things and how the city is very progressive and how the police is helping, like all this kind of crazy stuff. Like I can say, I say everywhere that I go, like this idea that the Nashville is progressive is only a white conversation. Like with my friends, like we never talk about this city is progressive, never.
I think this goes back to like why this is such a racial issue. Like there's still from the dominant culture this threat, this perceived threat when it's coming from communities and voices of color. Like, no, I have no issue. Like, I have respect for Greta Thunberg. This is just a good example. You know, she really has awakened the world through social media, really just starting that way. But, you know, there's been conversations like, oh, the world is treating her like a shiro, rightfully so. But when considering the decades of youth-led, elders-led, the very same messages coming from indigenous communities, people on the front lines. You know, when we look at Standing Rock, for example, yes, it was over a pipeline, but indigenous communities from all over the world unified in that because the time was right to share that solidarity. And yet that was perceived as a threat. It was literally a war, people getting, you know, attacked, physically attacked for those things. And when it's coming from, you know, a sweet little girl from Sweden, it's like really uplifted. And again, and Greta knows this, and she's really been, you know, honoring this and working more closely with indigenous communities. So again, it's not a critique on her, it's a critique on the world and that perceived threat, like when it's coming from voices of color and communities of color, it's this threatening thing, you know. So I'm just kind of building off of what you're saying, Ponkho.
Yeah, and it's because it's completely the system then was made like this, because it was made for the kind of people that look like this, like you say, like Berta Cáceres died fighting for this. Like it's a lot of our ancestors that having died because this reason fighting for the rights of the planet. And usually, I guess the perfect example, I remember that I saw a picture that became viral from Asheville, from a nurse, was a white nurse with a lot of tattoos in the hand. And I was thinking, now they are, and they make this person like being the hero of the heroes, being the star, I guess the symbol of the heroes, the nurses heroes of the now with the pandemic. And I was thinking, they not select another person, they can select very easy a brown, a black person, or they select this white person. And I never think that it's random. So this is the reason for the fight always is the narrative. We need to create our own narrative. We need to create our own heroes, because they never gonna do this for us. Always have to be somebody that is white besides us to validate what we are saying. And this is what is crazy, only like, it's the way that it is. So we're not gonna say that it's not like that, then it's another way. It's the way that it is, only like, we need to be the people that create their own narrative of what is going on. Like I say, that it's a lot of people doing a very powerful work, and it's never in the news, it's never in the top. So we need to be, now with the power of social media, we need to be the people that push these stories to be out and create, like I say, create our own heroes and sheroes.
And even in that example, Ponkho, it was not only was it a white nurse, but it's not going to be the environmental services staff of the hospital that keep it clean. It's not going to be the farmers that are keeping us fed. It's not going to be those positions. So even those stories get made invisible. Even in this situation where we're like fighting for who's essential and who are the people that are saving our lives, it's always going to be the white savior if we keep leaving it up to white people to define that story for us. And this is like something I've been sitting with a lot because I work in nonprofit right now too. And going back to, you know, something Ponkho said earlier about the conflict of being in nonprofit, and that, you know, nonprofit and philanthropy is predicated on white wealth. Like it exists because of legacy slave owner wealth, because of corporate America, white wealth from foundations and stocks and bonds and all this. And that's never going to be our way out. Like nonprofits are never going to save us, and it was never built for us. It's always going to be based on the backs of Black and brown people to say that they're saving us. And so I'm like, that's why, you know, what Alina spoke to about what Nawaya is doing resonates so heavily with me, and what Beloved Asheville is doing, because like, I'm tired of working within the white supremacy culture, period. Like, I'm tired of this conversation of like, we have to redefine what's normal. I'm normal. I was born normal. I'm not the alternative. Like being brown, I wasn't born into this world as alternative to what is normal, which is white supremacy culture. Like I was always the primary. of my story, and my family was always primary of our story. And so, going back to the community has the answers. Like, we've always been doing it right. We were never the ones that were harming the planet. It was capitalistic, like Olu said, like it was capital white America and capital white supremacy culture that was harming the planet. So we were never like to be continuously pinned against the wall and to be made to feel that we don't care and we don't have a fight to fight for because of being forced to have to just survive each day. Like, I'm sick of that narrative and it's bullshit. And I'm like, all of this to say, like, I'm just really focused on how can we create resources from within, because we have the answer. So it needs, like, the whole narrative around how we're resourcing and financing our own solutions has to come from within. And that's where things like a cooperative collective of homeowners starts to fit into the picture, because, like, at the end of the day, I don't know what role white nonprofits and what white capitalism can play for us anymore. It wasn't made for us. It's never going to be made for us. And I'm not going back to that. Like Pancho said, I'm not going back to that. I was never looking to be the new normal. I was always normal from the beginning. And so I don't have like a direct question, but I'm just so livid about what is, and so inspired by what you all are creating that I just have to say that, and to give hope too to those of you that I see it in all of you that are on this panel and that are on this call. Like, that is what we are fighting for, and I'm here for it. And it's like, we have to hear more of it, and we have to find a way to build this power within ourselves, because I'm not looking elsewhere. I'm looking right here. I'm the primary. My family was it for me. We weren't an alternative to anything.
And this is open space now, everyone. So if you're on this Zoom call, feel free to join verbally, not just in the chat. There's plenty of things to share, and it's to build off that. It's like you said, I get what you're saying, but you said white American, and it's like remembering that this really, capitalism stems from colonization, and it's not, bashing European. I like to say that, like, there is an indigenous European, and there is a return to land all over the world. I think the white thing is like that whitewashing of culture that just became so materialistic and so capitalistic and extractive in that sense. Like, that's how I resonate with this white term, and I want to just distinguish that, because I know that we do have allies, and that there are people, like, even reading Kathy's comment, I think, where was it? Just, like, people showing up and recognizing, I'm a plant person too, and yeah, we need to just listen to communities who are directly impacted, and listen to indigenous and Black-led solutions and all of these things. Like, there are people that understand that, and I think demonstrating just by living those solutions ourselves with our friends who might be white, like, that is powerful. Representing that diversity is powerful.
Yeah, and it's very powerful. Like, the other day, somebody contact me. We have a page in Spanish. So somebody contact me and say, oh, we would like to, I talk with the owner of one restaurant. I work in this restaurant, and we would like, I asked him if we can donate some burritos for the families that lost the work. So I contact them, and later we went there. They gave us 50 burritos, and I was talking with a person then worked there and talked with the owner to donate the food, and they was saying, like, we still working, so we would like to spend our money, all the money that we make in this time, to make food for the people that lost the work. It's workers that are donating their own money and the time to cook food for people that don't have work right now. Like I say, this kind of powerful stories for me is like the solution, the ground. The people care. The government not care. These people are saying that they're gonna open because it's about money. No matter than the old people die, like we need to open because it's about money with these people. Only like people in the ground care. And I think that, like I was saying before, like for me, the hope, the inspiration became from the people in the ground because they love the community, they love their own communities. And we're gonna figure it out the solution. Like I was talking with people, we went to Weaverville and we went to deliver some stuff there. And I was talking with the people. This is even not make me afraid because a lot of us then crossed the desert. Then we was in the desert for 5 days crossing to this country. Then we came to this country without knowing the language. Then we came to this country without knowing the culture. This is another step for us because we always have been in the struggle. So we know how test the struggle. We know how feel the struggle, and we know how to survive to the struggle.
Yeah, I've been part of some conversations that that has been like, yeah, there's a COVID-19 coronavirus, whatever going on, but we face adversities, crises, epidemics like all the time. So it's like, I don't know, the conversations was going more like, this is just another thing to us. Like, we gon' protect ourselves the best way that we can, but we're gonna keep it pushing with day-to-day life. Like we can't sit around here and think that we're gonna, get this funding or whatever. Yeah, I done lost my job, but I gotta go out here and find another way to make some money or get another job or whatever. It's just we used to the being in situations like this all the time, and I had to promote that like a lot with my talk to myself about that, you know what I'm saying, not living in fear of like what's going on with this pandemic, you know what I'm saying, and also expressing that to my kids too, because we're considered, fairly okay, you know what I'm saying? And what we need to be doing is just making sure that we are able to see where we can fit in to help other people out there that's in worse off situations than us. But yeah.
Go ahead, Savannah.
Thank you. It makes me think too, like what you guys have been talking about, how people of color have always kind of been in a crisis. Like a lot of alt-right groups will like say like, oh, like a race war is like gonna start. And like for people of color, there kind of has always been like a war against like race and like them, and they've always been persecuted. So like not being in fear of that too, that like things are gonna happen that way, because we've already survived that. It's like we have that resistance culture like already.
Yeah, but to keep it real, Savannah, not to forget about that being a real possibility, because some of us know what happened after Katrina. We know that them white militias was down there hunting down black people and shooting unarmed black people with no problem. So we know that there's a possibility that something like that could pop off. I mean, I know, and
the push to reopen and people not wearing masks, it's at our expense. It's people of color that are dying disproportionately from coronavirus and suffering and have, the stacked up health conditions that would make us more vulnerable to coronavirus. And so that's another way to weaponize this situation too. It's not, you don't have your guns, but you know that you're putting our lives in front of the tracks.
Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that point up, Larissa. I think that's another good connection of the whole, the climate justice issue affecting communities of color the most. Like you were saying, growing up, Olufemi, like being around those electrical places and places that have toxins, it impacts our lungs, it impacts our health, and makes us more susceptible to things like COVID-19. And it's not the great equalizer like people were, wishfully thinking. Like, it's not equalizing anything. It's showing all of these cracks in this system, as we're already so well aware. People are still riding in the subways in New York, trying to get alternative work, you know, and they have to go forward to take care of their families.
Yeah, and we still have a lot of people in prison, and we still have a lot of people in detention center. Like I was saying, this is the reason for, even then this is big stuff, the stuff that is going on now. Like I say, we always have been in the struggle. Like a month ago, I can tell you that my brother was detained by ICE and he was in detention center. So we went there and we helped him to be out. So like I say, we always are in this, we always have the police behind, and I always worry about what is gonna be next, because it's the way that the system is. They always make us worry what is gonna be next, and it's always gonna affect us more. Like I can tell you then, what is very hard, because we have been fighting with other organizations to the bosses to be free. And one of the first things then when the pandemic happened, the bus was free. So who ride the bus? Who ride the public bus? The public transit? So it's poor people. So you think if the idea was to keep social distancing and you make something that is public free, why you like I don't know, sometimes make me feel then it's in purpose, all these things.
Yeah, Ponkho. Yeah. And couldn't never get them to let us ride that bus for free, or to cut down on the cost. That's how we met, Ponkho. It's through just economics. Now I remember.
All right, yeah, we have just a few more minutes, so I want to welcome any other questions, lines of inquiry that people have before I kind of give final word to our guests, our panelists. But anything anyone wants to write, and I haven't looked at the chat in a while. I was slacking, so if there's anything in the chat that I missed that you really want to get addressed, please lift that up now. All right, I can kick it to our panelists to have just your last thoughts on this topic. And we covered a lot of topics, but they're all related is the point, right? Like everything is intersectional, everything's interconnected, and you can't do one thing without addressing the other. It's a system that we're working with. So I appreciate that our conversation went everywhere. So I'm super grateful for that. I want to let you all have your final piece. So whoever wants to start.
I just want to say, like, yeah, let's keep it real. Like, let's just build real solutions and figure out what that looks like. You know, a lot of us are leading different things or cooperatively creating different things. So let's just stay grounded in those things, because I really believe in us.
Yeah, I think then for me, it's a lot of hope. Like I say, more than now than never, we have a big shot to change stuff in a way that is good for the planet, good for the people, good for the animals. So I think then we need to be ready, and we need to be excited, and we need to be with passion to change the things, because we have a shot than we never had before. And I really believe there is more people join the movement, and really believe then is the community then have the solutions, and not the leaders. It's not the president, it's not the governor, it's the people in the community. And I think then the more then is more empowered the community, I feel then we're gonna begin with a beautiful solution. Then even like I say, even if we decide to not depend on every other of the people that make the laws, is good. If we create our own communities, then we are based in community and in our own decision. Good. Only like we have the shot this time, and I think then we have to do the best that we can.
Yes, thank you, Ponkho.
Yeah, thanks everyone for being here. I'm very honored to be here with such amazing guests and panelists, and we've got a long, hard road ahead, but yeah, I also have hope. I believe in us. I believe in our neighbors, and I believe in our communities. So thank you.
Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you, Chloe. Thank you, Poncho. It's been an honor to be on this panel. When this blows over, because I have family still in Asheville, so I know that I'll be up there soon, and I'm hoping to connect with you all. I'll leave by saying that I hope that we all remember to build up, not only in this time of COVID-19, that we're quote unquote building up our immune systems. We need to be building up our spiritual systems as well. We need to be building up our relationships with our ancestors and with Mother Earth and with the universe, higher power, God, creator, creatress. And please, let's move and stay grounded in that, because that's what we're going to need in these times. Yeah, thank y'all.
Thank you, Olu. Thank you, everyone. I dropped in that contact form in the chat box, so please stay connected so we can continue this and many other interconnected conversations and do the work. And so let's stay connected more than ever now. Thank you all so much for being a part of this. It's been great to see your faces. Can't wait to give you all hugs in person. Take care.
Thank you all to who attended too. Miss Kathy, Kim,
Yes.
Liza, Savannah, Ever,
Hola.
Lopez. Thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Signing off.